Who am I? Well, I am a very curious woman, lifelong seeker. I like to ask the big questions. I like to grow as a human being. So really my business and who I am, there's no separation really. Like my passion is really to explore myself and the human psychology and motivations and behaviors and who are we and who are we not. And that's what I thrive in. You know, it's a sport for me to grow. And I was thinking about it this morning. I'm also quite quirky. So I have a lot of humor and I like to laugh a lot. And sometimes I'm thinking I would get rich if I just changed my line of business and had somebody record me on an everyday basis, because I'm like who I am with people, I am alone as well. So my and I'm really here to live a good life. Yeah, and I want to inspire others to live a good life. That's really my aim. Not take myself too serious. Of course, I have pains and aches and I cry and I get angry and I lose it and I want to disappear in a dark hole sometimes, but I always get up and I have this big trust in life. Yeah, and I think this is what the world lacks in many ways. We take ourselves too serious. What makes me smile? Many different things, actually. It can be to observe the beauty of nature, a flower and the genius of creation itself, just how magical it is. Just look at cats, for example. They're just perfect. Their spots, their lines, it's just perfection. So when I remember to observe nature and the magic that we live in, the little things, it makes me smile. What makes me happy? Well, I thought I could prolong I could try to share more things what makes me smile. Many things makes me smile. Okay, what makes me happy? What makes me happy is, of course, have good laughs with my good friends, to gallop on a horse without the helmet so I can feel the wind in my hair really fast. So speed and a little adventure. I mean, speed like going fast. I was thinking motorbike or horse riding. Freedom makes me happy. That's the core of it, actually, when I tap into it. Freedom, yeah. What puts my soul on fire is really to work with people. So when I am in a room with a high ceiling and a big group of people in front of me, and I can just feel the energy, the oneness with the group in there, and that makes me super happy. Like it turns me on. And I think it's because it's in the moment, you know, it's like a moment of forgetting myself or just being in connection with soul. So that's what I live for. That's really what I live for. It's the best thing that I know. Nothing matters the most for me. Angry is injustice. That's not, but injustice on a bigger level. Like I feel, or being controlled. Like I hate being controlled. For example, how I feel that I'm not free to be me in society. Like when somebody who doesn't even know me, doesn't really care, who doesn't really give a shit, try to control me. This makes me furious. Yeah, this is kind of what fueling the work what I'm doing as well, to see through that. Yeah, what makes me sad? That's what comes up. I mean, I'm sure there are many different things, of course, but being misunderstood. Being misunderstood when I have a lot of good intentions and great intentions and really want to do well, and getting heavy, projections, or people misunderstand and don't see where I'm coming from or where my values are or my standards. That hurts. It scares me. It's fascinating, I have this. I'm looking into it. I get that question often because people are like, "Wow, are you scared of anything?" And also because I've learned to use my fear as a catalyst and catapult into change. I used to be much more scared. But I can see that I'm still scared of being rejected sometimes, like on a personal level. And I was contemplating this morning. I'm like, wow, and it's fascinating. Here I am, 43, and I did so much work on myself, and I still have like this little part in me that's sometimes being afraid of being rejected or being too much. you know, and it's not true, but it's there. Yeah, I think I live a happy life. And I'm healthy. I exercise a lot. I eat well. I sleep well. I take care of myself. That's it's very important. I've done that most of my life, actually, apart from certain periods of sidestepping. Courage. I have a lot of courage, and that in an extension, not only for my own transformation and exploring life, but also that is my superpower because I can help others to transform rapidly. It was quite recently, but I can remember the moment, but I cannot remember the actual catalyst for that. Often it can be when, for example, I look at silly animal videos on Instagram. That's my go-to, when cats are doing stupid things, and that's like I can lay on my carpet and I just crack up. I also actually found, I need to send it to you. I found this video with babies crying, and then like the parents threw like a piece of cheese on their head or in their face, and they just stopped crying. And then I was laughing because some people, like just throw this piece of cheese in the face of the child, it was a little bit of a shock, of course, but they completely snapped out of it. And I thought, this is brilliant, because I love to find pattern interruption for my clients. And I have a few, and I'm like, next time I'm going to bring a big piece of cheese, like a bag of cheese, and just... Wow, that's a deep question. What is the thing that I used to value that I don't value anymore? That's actually really hard to answer, because if I test talk into it, like many of my baseline values has been kind of similar throughout my life, and then there is this surface mind chatter and belief system that's been more changing. Yeah. So okay, that's something. Well, I used to want to travel all the time. For example, I was obsessed with traveling, and I almost found a fear in settling down. And now I enjoy settling down. I don't have the need to move as much, and that's one. And then I can see I used to have these beliefs. That's rather belief system actually than values for me. But belief system, for example, I've been so hardcore in my spiritual path since I was young. And I had this idea that it was not spiritual to make money. I was not supposed to be beautiful. I wanted to shave my hair. I wanted to make myself smaller because that was spiritual. So thanks God that I've changed that value, and I just value myself and whatever this body being want to explore now. So I dropped that limiting belief or that box into more freedom and acceptance. Yeah, I wonder, I see life, it's not black or white, it's more rhythms. I see life as rhythms, and for me the settling down came with Corona actually. And I had this pull, so I often follow my inner pull to I was settling down in Sweden. I bought myself an apartment that I wanted to ground, and it had this feeling I wanted to ground. And I also wanted to build my business more mainstream. I want to be more in society. I can feel that it's starting to move again. I will not start to move around like I did before, because I have that experience. I have to move with another purpose or intention if I do it. So what's right for me would probably not be right for you. I mean, that you're asking yourself the question to me shows that there is a rhythm changing, perhaps. There is a curiosity for something else. Well, I think I always was a little bit... I don't know if I want to say different, because I don't want to make myself special, but I had other views on life. So for example, when in my childhood, I was always inspired of He-Man and heroes, and not even heroines so much, but heroes and Zorro. And maybe that's why I became who I was, because I was influenced by all these fiction heroes. And I don't remember having a dream of wanting to be a pilot or a hairdresser or anything like that. I started to study fashion design when I was about 16. But even earlier than that, I just had this, there was we get there. I think that I didn't have that typical, like, I want to be this when I grow up. I just had this pull, this calling for something else. For life, for understanding the meaning of life. I don't know if I had that at 7 years old, but I can't remember having like a specific thought about what I wanted to be. But I remember my father saying at some points in my life, he's like, soon she's gonna grow up and she's gonna get a proper job. But that never happened out of that, his thought patterns, Sorrow and Ivanhoe. So sorrow was really, I remember sometimes we were skiing a lot when I was a child. So we rented these cabinets in different places. And I remember one time I rented one and I just went and I took a knife and I did this big sand all over the wall. Stole dogs and ran away with kids. And I was just wild. But I think so that's Sorrow was my favorite. And then followed by Ivanhoe and Superman. Kind of a love-hate relationship. I was very extreme. So first I went to daycare home when I was 3 to 5 or 3 to 6 or something, which I hated. I hated it to the point that I broke in to my daycare home when I was 5. I think if I'm looking from a child perspective, I think I hated that I always had to come there first and be picked up late. So it was more like the parents not feeling cared for from my parents, yeah? So I think that's what I hated about it. I felt alone and left out somehow. Yeah. What was my favorite subject in school? There was also variety. I love music and art and sport. All of it. I played football, handball, basketball. I was a ping pong champion. I did, I was really fast running and all kinds of sports. I loved it. I was good at it. And then I was good in school. I was smart, but I was floppy. So I quite early started to, find other ways of entertaining myself. Yeah, but I think I had this, I don't know how I ended up in that, but quite early I started to go to underground techno parties. I was only 12 when I started to go to clubbing, and so I started to go out when I was 12, and I started to drink quite early, and I started to take drugs early, and that is, people can see it as tragedy, and you can also see it as life experience. I don't know if I reflect back on that, if I look at, what would I want my daughter to do that I don't have. But if I look at, putting myself in a motherly shoe, for example, it's like, would I like that? Probably not. But I think at the same time, it also helped me to be who I am today. Without it, I would not be such a free thinker. Maybe I stayed free thinking because I went my own path on an early age. I didn't get programmed in the same way as normal kids does. So I spent my nights in trance and being, dancing and having a really good time. And of course, it comes with pain and suffering as well. But it was we have this saying in Sweden of a dandelion child, you find your way through the concrete, and that's kind of my life. It's a lot of a life of overcoming. That's a good one. I am a person who likes to see, and it's easy to sit and say now when I don't have a daughter. And if I have a daughter, then there's a whole lot of chemistry going on. So it's easy to sit here and be wise, But what would I do? How to introduce? I think about that. How to introduce children into certain environments and what is healthy? Is it healthy to talk about things? I also think about that when it comes to sexuality, drugs, alcohol. Is it better to have a glass of wine, or do I then introduce them to something that I will regret? I would probably not let my 12-year-old out partying. I'm gonna pick up DJing again. I told you, right, that I've been a techno DJ. I start a new course because, you know, when I used to DJ, I was analog. I played vinyls, and I don't know, I feel like a grandma with all these digital buttons and all crap. So now I'm gonna take a course on Monday, 5 days, like a fundamental, just in how the modern technology works, because I don't know. No, I was kind of, this is the thing with me, I really have extremes, and I was quite insecure, like as a child, and I was even bullied. I was bullied for being ugly in school. Like the boys, they didn't want me, and I felt like an outsider. What? Yeah, I grew up, I think it is, you know, I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, so it was always like, I always had this feeling of being an outsider somehow. And being in that age, I might have had, you know, today I get a lot of compliments for my looks, but in that age, I looked different, you know, I didn't have this stereotype, whatever that is, kind of look. So I was even bullied. I was bullied in school, I was bullied for being ugly, and yet I also had this kind of, I was also a powerhouse, you know, so one extreme I was, you know, the outsider, and at the other extreme I was, you know, don't fuck with me, and I was kind of protecting the people who got bullied. So I could always stand up for people. And then sometimes I was just a mess, an extreme in class. I was bullying my teachers. And then in others, I was just behaving really well and was super sweet. So depending on my mood and what I appreciated with the class. But I was not the cool girl. Maybe to some degree I was, but I didn't see myself as the star, you know, in that sense. I think I was born into it. My parents, I think Jehovah started to spread in Sweden in the 1940s or something, and my parents' kind of applied that teaching, and it became like a hype, and then my parents passed it on to me. But I very early on felt a huge resistance. Like I hated it. They had to bribe me. Sometimes they hit me because I was not still, like I was really like, I just resisted it. I think when I look back on it, that it actually formed me to never be a follower after that, because I still resist when a group of people start to create the same belief when it gets too intense, like this is how it is, this is the truth, or I just go. I cannot stand a leader trying to shape their followers into I'm leading with the truth. Like I would never do that to my students. I would always encourage authenticity and individualism.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah. So I think
Wow.
I thank that. I'm grateful, but yet it also created this that I always was an outsider, you know, because when you're so young and you can't celebrate Christmas or birthdays, or you cannot be a part of the norm, it's a child that has a quite brutal impact, you know. No, I was not popular with boys. No, it was not. I mean, of course I had relatings, and I think I had my first boyfriend. I was 12 when I had my first boyfriend, but we didn't last so long. So I was not the popular girl, no. Yeah, I do actually. I was working in a cafeteria when I was 15. I don't know if I made €5 or 6 or 7 euros an hour. It's a total roller coaster. Total. I mean, I shared. So when I was, I don't know if I was 16 or 17, because I was in this underground movement in Sweden. Yeah, I was out partying and I met a lot of interesting people, and these people actually lived a little bit different lives. And of course that influenced me and kind of fit into this longing for something else. Like I always felt that society, what we see and what we are taught to believe here is not enough. It's not it. Like I just knew it with my whole heart and soul. So when I was 17, I wanted to go to Thailand, to Koh Phangan. I left and I made a promise to my mother that I will come back after a month. So there was a carrot. She was like, okay, you go to Thailand, you come back, and then you finish school. And I was like, yeah. She said, go to Thailand, come back after 1 month. By that time I was on Kopangang, there was no computers, you could write letters or you could with coins, yeah. So we hardly had any connections, and I think my mother somehow enjoyed me being away as well. And then of course she worried a lot, yeah. But I was just doing my own thing. And after 6 months I came back, and I just said I will never go back to school. And that's where I started to forge my own path, really. I was producing piercing jewelries, big piercing jewelry, so like broad ones out of mammoth tusk. So I was in Bali, and then also clothes. I was designing clothes, and then I traveled around the world and I looked at the yellow pages to find suiting shops and customers, and I went knocking doors and sat in festivals. Wow. And so I'm an entrepreneur at heart. Yeah, I mean, that was fulfilling me, because it's actually interesting to talk about it in different ways, because you know you for the one you are, and I know myself for the one I am, and I see my reality in my ways. I don't see it as special or different, but when I start to reflect of it, the older I get, I'm like, wow, that's really courageous for such a young woman to just like, I'm just gonna travel the world and do this. And it was really an impulse of just knowing what to do next. And I didn't even think about should I do this because it makes me happy or not. I just did. And I love to explore life, and I was curious about life. So there was no other option more than forward, kind of. It's just like, I want to go there, and now this is pulling me and this is calling me, and I just followed that calling. And I started to pay attention to, I got really good in communicating with people and adapting to cultures and learning languages by just listening. Yeah, so I'm smart in that sense. And so by then it was not by intent. Like today I'm living much more by intent, but by then it was very much in the moment, and what fulfilled me, what called me, what called my soul. And for some reason, somehow I managed to create that for myself in a very early age, which is quite fascinating actually when I think about it. Like if I look back at my young self. Because at the same time I was super insecure, like as a young woman, and I remember starting to travel that time to Thailand. My English was, I could hardly have a conversation because I hadn't studied English that well. Like all my English is self-taught by listening and talking, yeah. So by then it was more the calling, the calling for the fire in my heart that brought me around the world to different places. No, I think when progressive over time, because I didn't have this, a short, trip down the memory line. Like even when I was a child, I remember falling asleep, and I felt like I was just held by something greater. And I just knew that something bigger is at play. And in my teenage years, I was clairvoyant. So I could, I had connection with the spirit world, and I saw things that other people didn't see, yeah. And for me, that was normal, yeah? It was just, I didn't make it that special or weird or strange. It was just my living experience. And I started to study, and I felt this pull of interest. Even when I was 15, I studied, I was just reading books about Hinduism and the Eastern gods and traditions. And it was an interest, I started to meditate when I was 19, started to study Ayurveda and yoga. So this is 99. So something in me just been following this path, and then rather sidestepping to other things just to come back to that. Okay, there is a specific defining moment actually, because I had this, I was, like I shared with you, I used a lot of drugs when I was in my teenage years, and that went from extreme to less extreme to extreme to less extreme. And there is a lot of between when I was like 19 to 24, I was involved even with people I maybe shouldn't have been involved with, and I explored experience. I had experiences with drugs and in different countries that is, impacted me a lot and provided, great teachings and learnings. And I was also DJing at that time a little bit, but at the same time I was in this spiritual path. So I alternated between the drugs and the underground techno scene and traveling the world and doing the spirituality, so both extremes. When I was 25, so this is 2005, I had this, and I knew my path all along, but I just didn't take it I didn't own it, like you said, what you asked for. So I had enough. I was, by that time, I was kind of worn down. I'd taken a lot of drugs. I was tired. My mind couldn't handle it really. And I was together with an Argentinian man who we had the most passionate tantric lovemaking that I ever experienced. But he was a psychopath. He was something unhealthy with him. And I was really insecure and I couldn't take care of myself by then. So I made him, I put him on a pedestal and he was so good and all of that. And we got pregnant quite fast. And I wanted to keep this child because I put him on a pedestal. But somehow my intuition was like, okay, I even suspected he had killed his own parents. That's the level of super, super strange. And he was really mean, psychologically abusive to me. So I was worn down and confused, and I just knew I had to change. And so when he was away, I rented out my flat. I was living in South Sweden by then. And I moved to Stockholm on the countryside to study herbalism for a year. And I was still pregnant, but then I decided to do an abortion after 11 and a half weeks, so just very last minute. And that was a great, sadness and grief for me. But I remember sitting in this school, somehow my intuition had guided me here. And one of the first weeks, we were sitting in a circle, the whole class, and there is this beautiful healer who is actually my mentor until today, who he was. He's a healer and he can really read you. He can read energies. And he just turned to me and he said, I'm going to make you shine like the sun you truly are. All this, it was life just flashed by, and I could see, I had sexual abuse as a child and all this abuse that I've been through, self-abuse, food abuse, drug addictions, physical abuse, psychological abuse, abuse with men, all this just played out. And I made a commitment in that moment to take my path and my life very serious, to not treat myself like that ever again and not let others treat myself. And that's where I really committed to the path where I am today. It's a quite interesting story, actually. If I look at when I work with people now, because when I started to previous to that experience, that owning up to the change of my life, I was super curious. Even though I was insecure and I had all these shitty experiences, I was still up, I brushed myself off. I was up. I kept on living. Yeah, it didn't really knock me out, but still I had these shitty experiences. And so when I had this shift and I decided to really make the shift, and I started to go into personal development and own up to all these so-called pain and negative experiences, for quite some time, I was actually caught up in my own belief system and became that. And I started to create the idea, so, I was a victim and all this stuff happened to me and, I actually shrank to some degree. I was still having this fiery spirit, but there was quite some years. And then I remember just realizing, because I also had this belief system that I was still an outsider, I was not welcome into groups. I kept, myself for myself, which to some degree is positive because it made me travel the world and sit with masters and teachers and, But still, I never became one of the flock, of the tribe, because I always thought that people didn't like me, which was just a total projection, my inner projection out onto the world. And I remember one time when I had this epiphany, this awakening, when I realized that, I am doing this to myself. So it took me maybe 6 years of self-created suffering until I just wow. And it was such a painful moment to understand and, powerful, of course, to understand that, wow, this is just a projection. Like, I am creating this. I am creating the victim. I am creating the whatever suffering I create in this world, you know, from where I was living. You know what? There is the Bitcoin exchange, like the Swedish exchange, BTCX, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
The founder of that, he asked me to be the CEO in 2011. I would get paid in Bitcoins. And I said no. And I still have the conversation. And I'm like, fuck, I regret that. Of course, and but I totally, you know, when I go back to, because again, it's in rhythms, yeah. And then of course I still go through hardship, and I can see, for example, if I just go into the current moment, like my path and my mission is so important. And if the past 3 years a bit have been challenging for various reasons, and I've been close to give up, which I will never be, but it feels like at moments. But then I see that, no, I will regret so much if I don't follow through, yeah. But anyway, so that's current. But when I look back, that's nothing. I don't regret anything. Like, if people listen to my stories, like sexual abuse, Jehovah's Witness, drug addict, smuggling drugs, criminal, involved with criminal people, you know, abuse, self-abuse, blah blah blah. I mean, all that is a superpower today. I wouldn't be so rich in experience and being so fucking non-judgmental around other beings, because bring it on, you know, we are who we are, and it's all about how we choose to use it, what we do with our experiences. And that's like a cliche, of course, but it's also, you can say it and you can live it, yeah. So of course there is nothing I regret, you know. This is one of the, I don't know, because I left it. Before I was so passionate about, like, wake up people, you know, you have to live and there's so much to explore and, you know, but then I also realized that people will do whatever they need to do whenever they need to do it. It's not my job to wake anybody up. I can just be me, and those who want to join, they can join, yeah, or be inspired, they can be inspired. But it's a little bit, sometimes I can feel a bit sad, because we are, imagine in school or when we are young, if we were taught to just handling our emotions or express our needs or learn about healthy sexuality or mindset, like, or we're just being encouraged to live true to your unique individuality and not be in one form fits everybody, and you should just read about history, and then this year everybody gonna become a dentist and then a mechanic. I mean, it's so bizarre and out of human nature when it's so rich. No wonder people are feeling depressed, lonely, lost, isolated. I mean, it's insane how we live, you know? Yeah, that's so true. And looking at that, I mean, and then I found myself recently going into the comparison trap, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I'm aware enough to see that I do it and what it does with me. And then, you know, to have those experiences to understand, like, okay, I'm the master of my life. How can I change? Like you say, like, I can become my new self every day. Even if I think something today, I can change it tomorrow. And that's fucking amazing, because I'm the master of my game, you know, and then life becomes a sport. You know, how can I recreate? And then of course there will be, you know, limitations and belief system, but the whole point is, how can we dance with that? How can I just observe that entanglement of thought patterns? You know, how we fall prey to that. What is freedom? What do I want? Yeah. So this is, I mean, and when I hear you speak now, that what arises is one, yes, I mean, all these cliches, like you create your own reality, you know, this the journey that matters, not the destination, we can say it and we can live it. And then there is all these mechanisms in between, like the steps on how, you know, how to actually do it, because I see this spiritual bypassing all the time of people repeating quotes and whatever, but you know, you have to do the work and be interested, like being a detective of your own behaviors. So and that's kind of a lot what's going on in my head. Like on a daily basis, I just observe myself and I expose myself and I have fun about being myself, and I challenge myself to microshift my behavior. Yeah, because it's all about the little steps. It's all about all the time. What I do in one place creates a resilience in another place. Yeah, if I can, you know, train myself here, I will become stronger in training myself there, like discipline, for example. or if I want to, whatever it is, it's all the time. And now some people, when I say that, they feel like, oh, you sound like you're obsessed with yourself. I'm like, no, it's not about like something's wrong with me, I need to change it. It's like I have fun exploring how the human motivation works and how I can shift that so I can support others in doing that. And that's what's mostly going on in my head. But this is also where it's sad sometimes, or not sad, but looking at, I mean, I used to be trapped in my own belittling mindset, you know, in my own, you know, this is wrong with me, and I'm not good enough. Oh my God, I ran not good enough for such a long time. Like I really worked hard to be who I am today, like seriously, you know, people don't think it when they see me, because they're like, oh, you were just born like naturally relaxed and happy. And I was like, no, fuck no, like I want to kill myself. I've been miserable, yeah, self-hatred. But on the other end, like, why would I go back into misery when I can have fun? So when I see people, you know, so detangled in themselves and not good enough, and knowing that this is just thought pattern, it's just thought pattern, choice, belief system. It's like, how can I just inspire them to come here? Yeah, how can we inspire people? Because it's easy to sit and talk about just let go of yourself. It is just to let go of yourself, but it's not just to let go of yourself at the same time. It's fascinating, like it's deeply, deeply, deeply fascinating. I'm obsessed with our human potential. Oh, fuck yeah. No, maybe, yeah. But nowadays, what I've learned is, one, it's painful when I say that. And the biggest one, like I still have one limiting belief, or painful belief, maybe I should call it nowadays. And that is, who do you think you are? That's like my biggest. But what I've learned with, let me see what you said, another limiting belief. The thing is, what I've learned today is that when I take new steps into bigger expansion, if I don't have those thoughts, it's not big enough. So I've trained myself to not fall prey, because in the past I have fallen prey for the limiting beliefs, which made me not do certain things because I believed that I was not good enough, or, you know, who do you think you are? Today is like, I know that it's more painful to believe in that and sit back than to actually jump. Yeah, so it's a measurement, like it's a springboard today. But of course it arises, but it's my friends more than it's like, yeah, okay, I'm on the right track. It sucks, it hurts, it's painful, it feels real. Yeah, I'm not free from that, but I'm free to choose whether I want to believe it or not. That's the difference. And of course I doubt myself, and of course I have shitty days, and you know.
All good.
But yeah, you know, we're not stopping to be human, but the whole part is to understand that it's just rhythms, you know, the weather changes. I feel, yeah, like I shared with you, I've been a little kind of sick for some weeks. I've been a little down. Now I feel relaxed. I feel happy. I'm happy to be here. It's always inspiring. I feel motivated, and at the same time I feel strategic. So I'm working slowly towards something. Yeah, and that's in my mind. I'm on Instagram and on Facebook. So Sussana Beatrice Global, or email sussana@susannabeatrice.global, or my website www.susannabeatrice.global.